Hello and welcome back to What Was That, where both of us are back in the real world, or rather, ulta, back in the virtual world as opposed to the real world where we shot last time. Nitesh, how is Bangalore doing?
We actually have a use case for the metaverse, but we are 2 years too late. No, Bangalore is hazy.
Yeah, let's not go there. I am in Delhi. Let us not go there, or I
I,
will.
I just got a knife to a gunfight, didn't I?
Yes. Huh. You brought a knife to a
Rocket
generation.
propelled grenade fight.
Yeah, to a F-35 dogfight.
Okay, well, I'll concede on that. You have it much worse.
Yeah. I am supposed to be driving to the hills on Monday morning, and we are already debating कि किस time निकले because अभी किसी को बाहर कुछ नहीं दिख रहा है.
Right. And it's the afternoon.
It is noon and it is quite utterly terrible. Let's just redefine AQI and then the problem is solved. ना हो जाएगा. चलेगा.
Okay, I'm not
Yes,
going to
I
test.
went there. I went there.
Yeah.
So what's been going on? Who should start? Your story, my story.
My story is like, what was that bingo? I've tried to hit every single trope that we have developed over the last year with a single story. So I think I should go first, just
Let's
for
do
that.
it. Let's do it.
I mean, इस स्टोरी में ट्रेजेडी है, ड्रामा है, इमोशन है, इलॉन मस्क है, मासायोशी सोन है, भाविश अग्रवाल है, स्मॉल कैप शेनानिगन्स है,
Oh
मार्केट
man.
डायनामिक्स है. It's everything. My story is an interesting development that happened this week. Bhavish Agarwal sold a small bit of his shareholding of Ola Mobility, Ola Electric, yeah, whatever, the scooter company that is listed. He sold a small portion of his shareholding, and let's just get into it. In most Indian companies, you have promoters, the founder or the founding team, or the people who brought it to market through the IPO. They try and hold that magic number of 75% because capital market rules don't allow you to hold more than that. But at 75%, you have absolute voting rights, and you can't be ousted from your own company. You run it like your own fiefdom, and this works well in most cases until it doesn't. Uh, the problem with this, though, is that in most cases, this is the only company that the promoter is running, the only listed company at least. And so, while on paper they have these sometimes billions of dollars, they can't really access that money because they can't sell those shares in the market, right? So, that is a structural problem. Second is a more conceptual thing in that all their fortunes are in this one company, right? This hypothetical company that we're talking about. And so, if the worst comes to pass and the company goes under, they'll be left with nothing. It's like, instead of looking at it as a promoter, if you look at it as an investor, there is almost no hedging. There's no diversification, rather. All
Hmm.
your eggs are in that one big basket, and you're the one swinging the basket around. So, lots of bad incentives or a multiplying probability of bad things happening. But you can't sell the shares because the market might perceive that as rats leaving a sinking ship, so that is also a problem. You you want to hold on to the shares for perception reasons, but also for control reasons, because then you have the majority voting rights. But you need money for your roz ka kharcha, chai pani, and also because you might want to make other investments, right? Presumably you have a wonderful network, and you have access to great private market deals, venture stuff, whatever. So you need liquidity, but you don't want to let go of your company, which is your identity and your bread and butter. So to bridge this gap, there's something called pledging, where you go to a bank and say, "Look, I have these crores worth of shares of this company that I can't sell, but that you can see are being marked to market every day, literally, and so they're worth a lot. How about you keep these with you as collateral and give me a loan for which I'll pay interest on
Yeah.
that money, right? So this lets me take care of my daily expenses, lets me do all kinds of things without having to disclose to the exchanges in the market that, I bought a house, or I'm investing in this small company, or whatever, just private financial things that people do, not nefarious. uh, Even really high quality promoters do this because there is a genuine problem. You want liquidity while retaining control, and it's an elegant solution. It works. The banks lending are, uh, it's a great trade for them because they're way over collateralized.
Hmm.
And worst come worst, you have a very liquid collateral, right? You just dump it on the market, and you're good. I mean, it's a relatively safe asset for them as well. And ठीक है, this also usually works. The problem happens when, let's say, my share was trading at 100 rupees and I pledged a small bit to you, uh, Vineet, in this case the bank, and you lent me money against that. This was a year back. Today my share is trading at 30 bucks. So that collateral which I gave you has not just halved but gone to a third of its value. This didn't happen in one day. So what would happen is, when the price started sliding, you would issue something called a margin call. You would reach out to me and say, "Hey Nitesh, we need to talk. Your collateral is not within our risk parameters for the loan that we have given you. So either repay the loan or give us more collateral." Usually that's what promoters do. Like, it's like the perfect debt trap. The only way to solve this is by pledging more shares. It's not a good situation to be in. So, in fact, most investors and capital markets see a disproportionately high uh, percentage of shares being pledged as a really bad signal of corporate governance, of systemic risk. It can go to hell really fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a big red flag. If you have constant pledging, which, why does the promoter need liquidity all the time? Or if you have very high pledging also as a percentage of the shares that they own. So this is the broad environment that Bhavish Agarwal found himself in. Now he owns way more shares. I think 130 crore shares, number of shares I'm talking about, which is some 35 odd percent of Ola Electric, and he had pledged a small fraction of that. Why did he pledge it? To raise money to invest in Krutrim AI. The timelines also match up exactly.
Yeah.
The amount of shares pledged किया था, he raised that much money, which is so bizarre to me because at that time, anything with the word AI in its name would have got funding from the market anyways. All Bhavish had to do was say, "Look, I'm backing this, and I'm retaining 25%, and I'm raising funds for the rest, or I'm retaining 50%, and raising funds for the rest." He didn't have to put in his own capital, especially since Ola's troubles had already started. The we'll get to that, but it wasn't a smart capital allocation move in hindsight. Okay, but from Bhavish's point of view, maybe he was looking at it as, this is going to be another rocket that takes off. That's your first Elon Musk reference, and so why would I want to dilute this early in the game, right? It's just got 300 crores, and I'm sure I'll 10x this in like a year.
I mean, the whole thing is just an Elon Musk reference, right? Ki I am pledging too many shares of my one public mobility company to buy into one technology asset,
Yeah.
right? Is he also having what Elon Musk is having for breakfast?
I don't know. I actually went through the last earnings call, and while Bhavish doesn't call out Tesla by name, he does say that even companies that we look up to have gone through a consolidation phase in the last year. The broader EV market, except China, that's
Except
there in
China.
the earnings call. That's there in the earnings call. Except China
Yeah.
has seen a bit of a correction, including companies we look up to, which I'm certain he is alluding to Tesla. Or I might be wrong and he's talking about BMW. I don't know, but I think it's Tesla. Anyway, for the uninitiated, Vineet is talking about how Elon Musk pledged his Tesla shares and used that money to buy Twitter and all the shenanigans that happened, and which was going to
And
be
then Twitter was bought by Grok, or Grok was bought by Twitter.
which was going to be the B track of my story, but Vineet clearly jumped the gun there. No problem.
Yeah.
Back to where I was. So even when this pledging happened, and Krutrim went through the troubles that it did go through finally, and there was it's a private company, so there's not much we know about it. But they've had attrition issues from what has been reported in the newspapers, and there were releases about amazing new businesses that they've cracked. But again, it's a private company, so data is limited. The attrition thing was real because it was reported in newspapers, so that's what we'll go with. Uh, yeah, so that's the issue that happened. The Ola share price has been sliding gradually. SoftBank sold a large chunk. Many of the big foreign funds, the FIs that were invested in Ola, have gradually started divesting. However, I will not hold that specifically against Ola, except SoftBank, because that has been a broader theme of Indian capital markets for the last year. I think it's been missold in newspapers and online articles. You just have to look at it in a broader sense. A lot of foreign capital came in terms of venture and private equity, and those deals are maturing, those funds are maturing. Of course they're going to sell
Yeah.
their shares and return the money to their principals, right? They're just at the end of that cycle. So that the big narrative that we see every day of FII outflows and foreign money is leaving India and capital markets are doomed is only partly correct. I would say maybe 25-30% correct. For the large part, it is just funds which did what they meant to do, which was always their mandate, and they've reached the end of that road and they're taking money back. That was always the plan. This isn't panic money exiting markets. It is how these funds are structured. And not all investments will go into a perpetuity fund or get evergreen. That is happening on the margins, but it's not meaningful, at least in India.
Hmm.
So it makes sense that foreign investors have brought this nascent, small, uh, pretty wild bet to the capital markets, and now it's time for retail and domestic investors to step in and for them to recede. That's not a problem. SoftBank selling was a problem because it they were one of the biggest backers, so it had a chilling effect on the stock. And since then it has been a steady decline. From a peak of 100, I didn't pull that number out of my ass. From a peak of 100, Ola was at around 30-35 in the last year or so. That has been the 52-week high and low for the Ola stock. And last week, in over 3 consecutive days, Bhavish sold nearly 300 crores worth of stock. And again, these deals happen. They're usually done through block trades or bulk trades because you don't want to suddenly flood the market with your shares. You're going to get a terrible deal. And so what happens is you give the mandate to an investment bank and say, look, I want to offload these many shares, and they will consolidate demand. Uh, Call it dark pools, call it whatever. They will consolidate demand and then either do the entire transaction off the exchanges, which is ideal because you won't fuck up the price that much, or at least do it in tranches.
Hmm.
But Bhavish could not find a single institutional buyer for this almost 3%, not 3%, 2 odd percent stake that he was offloading. So he did it on the open market to retail buyers, which is the worst way to do this. Just in terms of the spread, in terms of how much of an impact you're going to have by dumping that many shares on the market in just 3 days,
And
which
because of that, the signal that you're sending,
exactly. So
the fact that you're doing it means that no institution was interested. So therefore, what does that mean about the share?
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
and that it was done over 3 days rather than over 3 months.
Yeah.
मेरे ये करना ही था, which points to it being a forced liquidation and not something that was voluntary and decided in advance and agreed upon by all the parties. It seems like somebody's hand was forced. I don't know whose. The people involved are famously litigious, so I'm not going to speculate. But that's how it looks to me as an innocent bystander, that this wasn't entirely voluntary.
So yeah, interesting one. What is the B side?
The B side is, how did Ola get here? What the fuck happened? They were a ride hailing company.
Hmm.
All right. Imagine that. Imagine the audacity of the guy, and we've made no bones of it, right? I've called him Misho Elon Musk, and Misho has doubled in price since listing. So I clearly know nothing about Misho or Elon Musk or Ola or Bhavish, right? But imagine the audacity of being like, even if you are following in somebody else's footsteps, being the Travis Kalanick of India, creating a first proper full scale ride hailing company, basically transforming how cabs work in India, how mobility works in India. Let's give credit where it is due.
Hmm.
Ola did that, Bhavish did that. And then making this second bet on, okay, we are a mobility company. We are not just a ride hailing company, we are a mobility company. How does most of India move? It's on two wheelers. Okay, how what technology can we use to disrupt this? It's electric two wheelers. Perfect, let's do that. Let's set up a huge factory, which is again the Elon Musk playbook, and let's acquire a European company. So we have a off the shelf scooter ready. The S1 that you see was almost entirely a product of a European manufacturer that Ola acquired. So that is not an Indian product developed for India. It was Indianized afterwards. The features were added. Famously, I still think it's the only scooter which comes with a Bluetooth speaker. Which, how well do you know your audience? कि हाँ मुझे पब्लिक में न्यूसेंस करना है. I want everyone around me to listen to my Bhojpuri rap. That's the only scooter that comes with
Oh
a
God.
speaker.
Hmm.
So that's great, right? You know your audience. So they brought this European
No,
product.
that is terrible. You have a responsibility beyond knowing your audience. That is terrible. Putting a Bluetooth speaker in a scooter is not great. It is terrible. It is a public nuisance.
Yeah, I'm sure that tinny Bluetooth speaker is ruining the otherwise pristine, calm
The
Indian
point,
conversation. What the fuck are you saying?
the point is to be heard, right, by others.
No, it's perfect. It says so much about the Indian consumer, right? I could wear earphones, I could wear headphones, but this is
Well,
so.
but you don't want to be doing that while riding a scooter also. That's also dangerous. So you just don't want to be doing this, period. It is either dangerous to you or a public nuisance. So pick neither. घर जाके सुनो.
Okay. Yeah, nice. Vineet has delivered his verdict from his ivory
दिल
tower.
please, दिल
Not
की
all
खुशी.
of us
घर
have
जाके
the
music सुनो.
luxury of going home and listening to music. Okay, Vineet? We spend 12 hours on the road.
That was my privilege speaking.
Sorry. But
Reminds me of this. Sorry, I have to interrupt for this. I don't know if I can ever locate the screenshot anymore. The internet is just like that anymore, like that now. It was why do like there was this Facebook post, right? Some news what story of some serial killer with some multiple bodies found in the backyard,
uh-huh.
right? And somebody just quoted that and put up a Facebook post saying ki why do serial killers just hide the evidence in their own backyard? That just seems like the dumbest thing to do. Just drive out at night, right? And this is rural US, right? So there's no like CCTVs everywhere types.
Right.
And the first comment was, not all of us have fancy cars with big boots enough to hold a human body, or even, the protein or the weight, whatever, to lift that much. Check your
Check
privilege,
your
people.
privilege. I was just going to say that. Check your privilege.
Hmm.
Anyway, um, okay, so while the insight was all right, it made sense. It was so Bhavish has had this theme of spotting waves early and getting on them before most people. That works spectacularly when it works, and it's easy to wash away when it doesn't. Right? The way the mental image that I built in the research that I've done in this over the past couple of days is that Bhavesh and by extension Ola is like a boat with sails in all different directions. Okay, and he's just hoping that one of them will catch the breeze and take them in. It's not clear which direction because that's not what Bhavesh optimizes for. It is take them somewhere fast. That's all he cares about. And this approach, bizarre as it sounds, works really well when you're dealing with software, which is what the ride hailing business was and is. It's perfect. You can pivot once a week. It's disorienting, but it doesn't matter
Hmm.
because so long as you hit something, that can be a steady source of revenue, you're good. You don't need to, because software is so relatively cheap to develop. You don't need to get listed. You just need to be good at storytelling to your VCs, and almost for a decade you can pull this, I won't say con, but this narrative along. Okay, it makes sense there. I think the blunder that Bhavish made was, while he spotted this trend correctly, he was the wrong person to execute it. He fashioned himself a little too much after Elon. What he didn't realize was Tesla, the company, already existed before Elon. They'd already hit product market fit before Elon came along. He just got there at the right moment and then just turbocharged growth because he saw that all the other ingredients were in place.
I'm gonna put this up on Twitter this time, just for the engagement bit.
Which bit that
The
Elon.
world did not exist before Elon, Nitesh. What are you talking about? Tesla did not exist. La, 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 la.
Yeah. Anyway, the mistake that Bhavish made was he fashioned himself a little too much after Elon Musk while lacking some of the structural supports that Elon had. One of which was product market fit, the other of which was that Elon was already spectacularly wealthy and superbly connected in the Silicon Valley ecosystem.
And not
Plus,
just yeah, exactly, superbly connected to some extremely wealthy people.
yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Whom he could fall back on and whom he could sell the story to if need be. Plus, he had also had this wonderful image building that he had done. Like, do you remember there was a time when Reddit, of all places, actually thought of Elon Musk as like a real life Tony Stark?
He featured in the movie.
Yeah, yeah. So Elon cracked that also.
Hmm.
It wasn't just one thing, He had public perception on his side. So when even the institutions abandoned Tesla, the stock, retail money poured in. Like, no, we know Tesla, we understand Tesla. Post COVID, look at the share graph of Tesla. That is entirely driven by retail investors saying,
Yep.
no, we understand this. Tesla was a darling of Wall Street bets, right? That these were all really unique things that somehow either Elon engineered or lucked into, but which did not necessarily apply in Bhavish's case. First of all, India's retail market does not have enough depth to hold up a 40,000 crore company by itself. It is not possible without institutional money. We're just not there in terms of capital market maturity and depth. We are not there. Okay. So remove that. Second, just like they took a European scooter and brought it to India and Indianized it a bit, but not from the ground up. And so the first time that scooter met an Indian pothole, you remember, right? The body would break in half on the early S1s.
I just feel so proud listening to that. That you bring these cheap colonial white scooters into India and our potholes.
No,
How? Bring it on.
it was a well engineered product, but it was
Hmm.
engineered for very different conditions, right? The European designers who fine tuned their suspension never thought that their scooter would ever ride on the equivalent of the surface of the moon.
Hmm?
That it just wasn't in their brief, so it's not their fault either. Just like Ola imported that European model and applied it here without much forethought, they also said we are going to set up our own dealerships. Ola owns all its dealerships. Not the smartest move,
Yeah.
because what you gain in the additional sales margin, you lose in having to set up your own service centers. Whereas if you'd gone the franchise route, like a TVS would have done or a Bajaj has done, you could pressurize your dealers saying if you want to continue to hold on to the sales, the part of it, the showroom, you need to ramp up your service infrastructure. They did not have to do it out of their own balance sheet.
Yeah.
That was a structural blunder. In Tesla's case, it made sense because US car dealers are a cartel,
Hmm.
and it was a brilliant business move what Elon did. because it allowed him to then bundle the superchargers and everything, which a dealer lobby would have resisted. Here, none of that applied. People charge in their own homes. The little 10% margin that you would have given to a dealer in sales would have come back to you a hundredfold in service and spares. Imagine how much revenue Ola has lost because of a lack of spares availability,
Hmm.
because of lack of people to actually service the scooters, which okay, have higher than average quality issues, but it wasn't an unsolvable problem. They could have iterated, they could have handled the PR so much better, but because here everything was on them,
Hmm.
all of it was like they could not voice this onto, we are a wonderful company and we're doing our best, but it's these fucking dealers were not falling in line. They didn't have that because they were the dealer, they were the service.
Huh,
uh,
and also in India, the dealers are not seen as an evil, right? Like car salesmen in the US is a negative trope for the last God knows how many, whatever.
yeah,
Here, dealers are dealers, they're neutral.
yeah. And I don't know. It just didn't make sense to me why they would do that. I'm sure they had their rationale, and it's very nice to be sitting with
Hmm.
the power of hindsight and saying, "Look, you made that mistake and that mistake." But
Nahi, I am very confident of why it happened with like 90% certainty.
we'll get there. We'll
We'll
get
get
there.
there.
Let me say my piece.
Hmm.
And if I were to take a charitable view, which is a first for me in this case,
Hmm.
of what now? There was a blind item in the Economic Times a couple of weeks back that one of the big conglomerates, I don't know, it's either Ambani or Adani or JSW or one of these guys, I don't know, are looking to break into the electric two wheeler space. I
Hmm.
think Bhavish should sell the consumer facing part of the company, retain the factory, sell the consumer facing part, the showrooms, the brand, all of that to
Hmm.
whoever's willing to buy it at whatever price they're willing to buy. Get out of that business, become an energy company.
Yeah, fully.
It's
Hmm.
less sexy, yeah, but probably it'll give Bhavesh the room to again move in different directions. That's the problem. No? Well, like I was saying, with software you can pivot like once a week, doesn't matter. But with hardware, once you put in the foundation for a factory, you're screwed. Right? That is the original sin, setting up a factory in India, because you the, you're confined to like maybe 5% range of movement after that. Of instead of a scooter, I can manufacture a motorcycle, but that's it. You
Hmm.
can't pivot from scooters to helicopters, although you never know. But I'm just saying as an example, your range of mobility. Oh, nice. Your range of mobility
This
is
is that Yamaha trope, right? I'd like to buy a piano, please. Oh, I can recommend a Yamaha. Oh, and I also need a super bike. Can you recommend someone? Can you tell me which company? You're not going to believe this.
but Yamaha is there is a current logic to it. Yamaha is a sound company,
Hmm?
and so they make everything that makes lovely sounds. Another bit of trivia for you. When Toyota designed their first supercar, the
Hmm.
Lexus LFA, the sound tuning for that, how the engine should sound, was done by Yamaha. And it is
Wow.
still considered one of the best sounding cars ever made. Not the
That is
most
very,
beautiful, not the most powerful, but
hmm.
just best sounding because it was tuned by Yamaha.
That is very interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So let me round this up because we have touched upon Elon and everything already. Uh, we of course don't do stock recommendations, but since this is a listed company, what then? Are we like, has all the bad news been priced in? Is this a good time to buy? Which we would never recommend, but we're just talking. And in response, I have a Warren Buffett quote which I have lined up and ready. Just give me a second. Yeah, Warren Buffett has a three qualities rule. He says, when I'm looking for people to hire, I
Hmm.
look for three qualities: integrity, intelligence, and energy. And if you have, if you do not have the first, the other two will kill you. And if you do hire somebody without integrity, you really want them to be dumb and lazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Which is also the two by two about bosses, right? There is the nice versus evil, and there is the smart versus stupid.
mhm.
And yeah, it's a quadrant, and you know where you want them types.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It seems like such an unforced error. All of this, like it could have been so easily avoided. You
Hmm.
were in a nice place. You were the Travis Kalanick of India. As long as you were not listed, you were also the Elon Musk of India. चल रहा था.
Hmm.
I don't know, the pivots into excluding China and the ponytails and their latest product, the scooter that they've just launched, the Gen 3, has a claimed range of 300 plus kilometers on a charge. I think that's the highest that I
That's
have
crazy.
seen. Yeah, that's wild, right? Even if this is under ideal test conditions, real world it should still give 150, 160, which is way more than any of the other guys are doing.
Hmm.
In the earnings call, and I'll close with this, Bhavish's argument is that the entire EV space, the two-wheeler EV space in India, is kind of in the middle now, because the early adopters have already bought their scooters, and they're still in that life cycle. It hasn't come up for replacement yet, and broader mass adoption has not happened yet. So his argument is that earlier we had so much market share, and now we have little market share. And earlier there were two brands, now there are six or seven brands, but the overall pie has not grown.
Hmm.
Which, okay, the numbers do bear up on that. So he's saying that it's not that we are losing out; it's that the market is not growing as much as everyone had anticipated. And all these fuckers, by the way, had manipulated the way they do invoicing to qualify for a FAME subsidy from the government of India. The government had a FAME 2 subsidy to incentivize mass adoption of electric vehicles, which included two wheelers. But they had said we don't want to subsidize luxury or high end two wheelers, so they had put this arbitrary cap of 1.5 lakhs. Any scooter that is sold below 1.5 lakhs will
Hmm.
qualify for the subsidy. And it was sizable, some 10 15K if I remember. So what they did was they unbundled the charger. It was built separately as an accessory,
Yeah.
and the scooter was built at 1.49. And the government watchdog stepped in and said, "Can you use the scooter without the charger?" No, right? So it's not an accessory; it is an inherent part of the scooter, and you have conned the government and you have conned the customer. If it is an accessory, you should have given it for free because it is essential, right?
Yeah.
So the government actually made all the electric companies, this includes Ather, this includes everybody, right? Made them reimburse buyers for the chargers.
Oh, that is amazing. That
And
is
only then,
genuinely
yeah, and
full
only then
respect.
release the subsidy that they were owed from the government. So you can't do that.
Full respect.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So the trouble started then, and once that momentum slowed because there was uncertainty around the FAME subsidy. I don't think it's fully recovered after that. That growth momentum is gone in the broader market. So this isn't entirely Bhavish's fault. But again, if he was doing just the software or doing just the battery manufacturing on the back end, he could have pivoted away from it. But now he has physical showrooms and he has vehicles that he has already sold. And so he's there are too many holes in the ship. He's doing everything he can to toss some water out at least. Like all these years, you could only buy Ola spares from Ola, and now they said no, we are going to make it available broadly in the market. So at least you can buy the spare from your local dealer and take it to a local mechanic and get it repaired. They're also trying to increase the service workforce that they do have. And ठीक है, this has to be done anyways. It should have been done 3 years back. It's good that it's being done now, but just as a consumer, I don't think I'm not the target audience clearly for an electric two-wheeler motorcycle, which is the newest product. I don't think, because the life cycle of these products is so long, I don't want to gamble on whether I will have support 5 years from now, 10 years from now, which is what the heroes and the Bajajs guarantee, right? That you buy the Splendor, and even if there's nuclear war 20 years from now, you'll still get Splendor spares. That's the guarantee there, right? I don't think that that level of faith is there for Ola in the market, for EVs broadly, but for Ola particularly.
And that lack of faith is well borne out in with multiple examples in the US, right, of software companies getting into hardware and just not existing 5 years later, or deciding randomly, ki, Nana, we are pulling support. Spotify launched this car accessory, and in I think less than a year, they just said, oh no. So therefore, that car accessory, which requires internet support to keep running, is now dead.
Hmm.
So people have lost their money, right? It's now landfill.
Elon went through production hell, if you remember. It's difficult. Making things is difficult.
Yes.
Managing supply chains is difficult. It's not an easy business. And if you can avoid it, you should not get into it. Especially when you have a much more lucrative, easy, relatively simple software business that prints you money. Why would you do this?
Yeah.
They're trying to get into the home UPS market now because they have excess battery manufacturing capacity that they don't know what to do with. I, no, not your core competence. The UPS looks like a Mac Studio, not Mac Studio. What's the big Mac called? The one with the wheels, which are like a
Oh,
hundred
yeah.
dollar accessory.
The cheese grater, that one.
Yeah, the cheese grater. The
Uh,
UPS looks like that. Although I think that's a 3D an AI render. I don't know,
oh God. Hmm.
but it looks like that, and it's way more expensive than your average home UPS. Clearly, this is not a business you always wanted to be in, right? So it's not a
Home
good.
UPSs are, I would say, yeah, not as sexy as supercars. And
That's what it's not a business you wanted to be in. So don't step away from the consumer facing bit of it. It's going to hurt, of course. You made a mistake, but it cannot hurt more than seeing your stock price go from 100 to 30. Right? That's got to hurt as well.
hmm.
Just peel the band-aid off. I'm sure you'll find, like JSW, they've already entered the EV four-wheeler space, and they seem to be doing all right. They have the competence. They would love your battery tech.
Yeah,
Sell, sell. Get out of this business. Go back to running cabs and doing weekly pivots to the hot new thing. Karo, I don't judge you for it. Ola cabs exist because you thought that way and because Masa thought that it was a good idea. Good, great, but don't do hardware. It's not as easy as it looks. That's it. That's my bit. Thoughts?
lots of thoughts.
Shoot.
And I will, because some of the people involved, I will not name them in this story, are fairly litigious, as you were saying. If I use names, then I will have to redact more than the Epstein files released yesterday. So I will generalize and talk about where that 90% certainty figure that I mentioned of why this happened is coming
Mhm.
from. A point of disagreement. You keep saying that software is extremely easy to pivot. I completely disagree. We are looking at the examples that have made it big, right? The Microsofts of the world and whatnot. They can. They are conglomerates,
Yeah.
right? They are like the Adanis, Ambanis, the Chevals, the Yamahas, right? They can make do 1,000 experiments and something will stick. They have that capital, right? But otherwise, software is ridiculously hard to pivot. Like I don't think Spotify can create an Uber tomorrow, right? So yes, the same resources, sure, could be doing something else tomorrow because software is amorphous, right? Coding is amorphous.
Hmm.
But everything else, the GTM, the distribution, the market intelligence, the knowledge you need to build even in software
Hmm.
is very difficult to replicate into a new market. Which brings me to my broader point. The problem here is diversification and people speed running large corporations. I'm guessing Yamaha did not get into pianos and bikes in the same 5 year period, or they probably
Not
built
in the same
one.
decade.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So they built their base on one, got really big, and then they had the capital to get into to diversify, right? Which was probably a family member's whim. I don't know, but whatever it was, they had the backing, and even they would have had a lot of failed experiments.
Hmm.
Diverse, like people have skill sets and people have expertise that is built over years and years and years. Silicon Valley and Silicon Valley culture has convinced these founders that no, they are the second coming of God. I am generalizing, I'm not talking about anyone specific. Uh, and therefore, whatever they put their fingers into will be a huge success. And their brain, like, I am such a genius that I got lucky and made something work in one area. I made a great laptop, so
Hmm.
therefore I can also make a great supercar. That kind of thinking. It is bound to fail. They don't have the expertise. No one person is that great.
Right.
And even the Yamahas and all did not build their fame on the back of one person pretending that he knew everything. That, yeah, over diversification in too short a span, whether it is software, whether it is hardware, though, of course, I do agree that hardware, the failures will be much more obvious. You've built franchises. Where is that capital? How do you recover that capital? Right? Not franchises, but dealerships. So it is much worse in hardware, absolutely. And yeah, trying to build conglomerates too early is the problem, I think. And that is a universal problem, and there is no solution to that. I think the only solution is stick to your lane. So I do agree with your final conclusion कि ये बेचो, come back to what is your core, which is giving great competition to Uber as Ola used to.
Hmm.
Now I would not.
Ola has also lost market share in ride hailing to Rapido.
Hmm?
Yeah, that was my C track. But yeah.
Exactly that, right? Come back to that, focus on what you know about. You and your team have built intelligence and knowledge and products for that market over the years. Go
Hmm.
back to that and do a great job of that. The second part कि उसमें फिर सॉफ्टवेयर में पिवट करो, I would disagree with, for the same reasons that experience and skill and knowledge built over the years cannot instantly replicate in a new market, whether it's software or hardware. Focus,
Hmm.
breathe is what I would say.
The battery manufacturing that they've managed to crack, which is a difficult problem. Another listed Indian company just announced that this is about a year back, just announced that they might be doing something like that. Of course, they did subsequently set up a gigafactory and all that. Just the announcement, and the stock price had, I think, if memory serves, it had doubled. Again, not investing advice, not a stock I follow, but it is just an interesting story.
Hmm.
Amaron, the battery manufacturer, they the name of the company was Amara Raja Batteries Limited or something like that.
Hmm.
They renamed the company and pivoted hard into energy storage manufacturing. You know, the new gen from the
Hmm.
old lead acid that they were doing for all those years, and the markets love it.
See, backward and forward integration makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
Once you're established in a certain industry, at least within that industry, you're doing forward or backward integration. And this is exactly that, right? I know batteries, I
yeah.
can now make inverters, right? Or I know inverters, I can now make batteries,
Hmm.
stuff like that.
Hmm.
Perfectly within the lane. And there, that experience that you've built, it is never as siloed as that, right? If I'm building batteries, I will of course know the customer who is also acquiring an inverter. So I do know that market also. But हाँ, batteries के बाद music subscription service launch करना then is does not work. No, this was not a reference to the Bluetooth speaker, by the way, which is a terrible idea.
I still think is like up there with, okay, I won't insult the caravan, but near the top with the caravan of innovative music hardware from India in the last decade.
Caravan was a fantastic idea and a fantastic pitch. Man, they
I
I
love that
am a
product.
big fan of the concept. Huge fan of the concept. And they just cracked it.
Yeah.
What do old people need? They also want music, but they don't get technology. Nobody gets technology. It's getting super complicated. So just give them all the music, just bundled in with the speaker and make it super easy to use. And it's a good enough speaker
In a familiar form factor.
in a familiar form factor. Just
Beautiful.
amazing and a great name. And just all around, like, I am such a huge fan of that product and whoever came up with it.
Hmm.
Full respect.
Genius. Yeah.
Genius. Great idea, great execution, great UX,
Hmm.
great everything. So yeah, this is not that.
Agreed.
So, that my thoughts. And even Elon Musk, right?
Hmm.
Look at all the areas he's tried to get into. How many have been a success? Not many. Like the boring company now is gotten boring. Like nobody talks about it anymore except the people who are like, नहीं नहीं ये tunnel नहीं है, ये hyperloop है Vegas वाला. Oh my God, tunnel single lane is a hyperloop. So except those people, great. It's a tunnel. It's not
But wouldn't
innovative.
SpaceX exists,
Hmm. Yes, it does.
and it would not exist without Elon Musk.
Fair. Yes. Solar City. My point is not that what he's doing is not a success. My point is don't focus on 10 different things. Five or six of them will fail.
Right.
You don't have the expertise. And if you are going to do that, then you need the capital that a conglomerate has. And you need the power and you need the political connections that a conglomerate has. A decades old generational, multi generational conglomerate has. If you try to do that on VC money in 5, 6, 7 years and borrowing against your public holdings, then yeah, that is my point. I don't even know enough about SpaceX. I am not a rocket scientist by
They're,
any measure.
they're planning a list.
Audience, I am not a rocket scientist.
You do
But
have kick-ass mic though. SpaceX is planning a listing
yeah,
next.
but also Uber, right? When they tried to get into autonomous cars, that is a software company which has made a great UX for a marketplace for cabs.
Yeah.
Fantastic, right? Trying to get into what is so many layers of hardware, including hardware that has not been developed before. Crash and burn. Uh, Waymo also has Google backing, right? So therefore, they are going very well. Of course, there are exceptions to what I'm saying, right? And of course, these people are rich and I am not. So therefore, they know something that I don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my general thesis. You are much more likely to fail, and then you had better have the backing of a conglomerate. And even conglomerates are not this foolhardy of trying to expand into so many areas in so short a time. Exactly as you're saying, dealership setup karna makes like why what is the point except कि वहां कर रहे हैं मेरे भगवान तो मैं भी करूंगा.
I don't know.
It's a real like McDonald's in India is a real estate
In
play, right?
India, two-wheeler showrooms,
Hmm.
retail staff attrition rate, and I'm pulling this number out of my ass, to me, seems to be more than 100%. You go to the same two-wheeler showroom 3 months in a row, there'll be 50% new faces. And they're all churning between the same showrooms.
Hmm.
But it is so brutal that profession that nobody lasts.
I see the same between AWS and Azure and GCP. Like my POC in these companies when I'm trying to get credits for my startup.
They keep rotating.
I'm like, पिछले साल मैंने तुमसे गूगल पे बात नहीं करी थी. अब आप AWS पे हैं. अच्छा नहीं 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 अब Azure पे पहुंच गए हैं. So very fungible. So yeah, I'm guessing dealerships are the same.
Yeah, because there most of the paycheck is commissions, right? So
Hmm.
it's really tough. You're only as good as your last month's numbers. Imagine in that environment, you say, "I want to set up a network of dealerships." What the fuck? Why would you do that?
Yeah, nahi, again, A, that is the perfect time to think, yeah, this model is not working, we need a new model.
Right?
Right. But B, that is also the time that is when you pull back and say, नहीं यार मैं नहीं कर सकता मुझे कोई नॉलेज नहीं है मैं गाड़ियां मैं
Exactly.
मार्केट प्लेस चला सकता
Exactly.
हूँ.
That's the humility you need to say, okay, this is too difficult for me. I can't do this. I don't know this. That's the problem with the earnings call also. Remember, I didn't listen to the earnings call. I just
Hmm.
read the transcript. But even then, there is arrogance.
Hmm.
Even though I can't hear the sound of people's voice, there is arrogance. Of many. The entire market is the problem. The competitors are the problem, the government subsidies are the problem. Of course, nobody will say in the current environment that the government is the problem, so they
Hmm.
will say it is structural. But everybody in the whole ecosystem is the problem except me. Come on.
But also, like I have been on multiple institutional VC pitch calls, right? Where
Mhm.
I go and make the pitch. You are not rewarded for being realistic. You are not rewarded for being, cautiously optimistic. They will tell you कि भाई फीडबैक में बाद में if you're generally familiar and friendly with them, they will tell you later कि भाई नहीं,
Don't be so candid.
don't be candid. Go in saying I will change the market, I will change everything, I will change everything. The whole world is going to be different. Disrupt, 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 change, 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 change. Right, and then eventually you start believing it. Right, if you do that enough over the years.
Which works for when you're talking to VCs, but when once you're a listed company, the
You're already a changed person. You do that for 10 years to VCs. You start internalizing it.
yeah, the rot has gone too deep. No?
Hmm.
Because I'll give you a counter example. Again, this is a company that I really love and I am invested in. Look at any of the past 5, 6, 7 years now earnings calls of DMart.
Hmm.
The person who was heading it has stepped back from the leadership role last year. So I think the last earnings call was his last one. Neville Noronha, he was the CEO, and just the way he breaks down the business and admits mistakes. That look, we thought things would pan out this way, but it didn't, and this ended up happening. Just that humility and incredible self awareness
Hmm.
of here's what we had originally thought when we ventured into this space, but these were our learnings, and therefore we feel we are not the best company to execute on this, and so we're stepping back. And DMart has done that multiple times.
Nice.
And I have not seen many earnings calls where it is the last earnings call for that person in management, and multiple analysts, including some veterans, actually thanked him for raising their understanding of retail in India. That you have educated us through earnings calls. That doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen. Humility नहीं है. And again, the whole ecosystem incentive system is built around that, right? Ki the VCs want 1,000x plan with a 99% failure chance rather than a 20x plan with a 50% failure chance.
But public markets में वो नहीं चलता है. I would rather
Late.
have
It's late.
90% surety of 15% steady ROE for the next 10 years. I'm
Hmm.
happy with that. That's
As
what
a VC, I'm already asleep. Sorry.
I want.
Next.
So it's the dating versus married.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, it kind of works that way. And VC is like being in an open relationship. Yeah.
Oh God. VC is like being. I don't even know where to take that analogy. In which direction it can.
All I'll
Hmm.
say is I'm happily married, and I really like this side of things.
Like VCs want that वो Red Bull wingsuit वाला guy. उसको डेट करेंगे, उसको डेट करेंगे.
We have
So
already hung up our wings, yeah, on the married side of things and on the listed side of things.
the limited side of things. आई थिंक मैं अपनी
Sorry.
स्टोरी पे घुसता ही नहीं हूँ. घंटा हो गया. मेरा भी डीप था. मेरा बट स्पॉइलर अलर्ट. आई लाइड लास्ट टाइम. आई एम बैक एट एआई.
Oh, okay. You've relapsed.
आई हैव रिलैप्स्ड. या रिहैब. रिहैब नहीं काम करा.
You want to touch upon it?
फायदा नहीं. इट्स फेयरली डीप. It was a general roundup of all the contradictions that exist in terms of the OPEX, the CAPEX, the market, the spending, the scale, the reality versus the hype with data कि क्या चल क्या रहा है. So next week let's do that
Let's
properly.
do that next week.
Hmm.
I do still think there's one story we should touch upon. What do you think about Disney's deal this week?
Oh my God, $1 billion. $1 billion. That's like almost 15 days worth of spending for OpenAI.
But more than that, Disney is allowing Sora to generate content using those
Huh. Yeah,
characters.
I will look at it from a business perspective and as a somebody who fancies himself as a bit of a creative person, right?
Uh-huh.
And who works with a lot of creators and appreciate
Humble
what they
much.
bring to the place. Hmm?
Yeah, humble much. Go on.
So the business side, I don't know what is going on behind the scenes behind this deal. It can't just be we will invest $1 billion and you get to use all our IP. What do you give us in return?
That's what it looks like to me.
हाँ, कि तुम्हें सब कुछ मिल रहा है, हमें क्या मिल रहा है? Like and Disney, right? Disney is the most famously is it litigious or litigious?
Litigious.
Litigious company ever, right?
When it
Especially
comes
on
to
IP
IP.
protection
Yeah.
side. Hmm. तो उनको क्या मिल रहा है? What is this one way street going on? There is something that hasn't come out yet very clearly, right? Sam Altman is famously a smooth talker, right, and very well networked, but Disney, or they've just made a really bad play where it's all give and no take. But I can't imagine that. Like Disney is a bunch of very smart legal people, very smart financial
So
people.
I think the other half, the other shoe that dropped on this was the next day they sued Google, right, for unlicensed use of its characters.
Huh,
This was Disney signaling that we know what's happening in the AI space and we want to try and control it.
but एक तो $1 billion is nothing. Like OpenAI is trying to raise at $750 billion, right?
That was symbolic for both parties.
Hmm.
पैसा देंगे
Right.
at
हाँ
the
वो
end.
10 रुपए वाला ₹1 notional, right?
Yeah.
But then why not just go after OpenAI too? So what is going on? What is the leverage that's being done in the back end? I don't know. I feel that there's a lot that's not been made public. This all seems like a one-way street. Like OpenAI is misusing as much as Google,
Yeah.
right? You can create so much on Sora 2 also. So therefore, why would Disney, without getting a huge pound of flesh, see if that said, ki, Acha, we are acquiring 20%,
Hmm.
and now we will go after all the others. Great, makes sense. But ये notional $1 billion हम देंगे and वो 1/750th of the company मिलेगा या whatever 500 पे भी लगा लो 1/500th of the company मिलेगा,
Hmm.
and now we'll start going after everyone else and these guys are free to use it contracted for
Not,
3
not
years.
not free. There are a lot of asterisks in that too.
क्या है? There's no revenue source ना, there's no revenue model for on the OpenAI side also. OpenAI cannot give anything to Disney for this. If I am generating something, if I generate, like we discussed, right?
I think there was a line in the press note about how Disney will use OpenAI to have user generated content on Disney Plus. I don't think anyone has put. We've already put more thought into this than anybody else has, including Disney. But I think that's what they were indicating, that we're going to use
terrible
OpenAI
idea.
to. Yeah, of course it is. But I think that's the play here.
What is the play? Kya, like nobody wants to. Again, if put an AI generated movie in the hall next to a Martin Scorsese movie, which one are you going to go watch?
Why take it all the way to the movie? Just hypothetically, okay.
Hmm.
Here's what I think Disney aims to do with this. I don't think Sam Altman will take it down, will allow things to pass so smoothly. But
Hmm.
from Disney's point of view, they're saying, look, we know AI exists. There's
Yeah.
nothing we can do about that. Okay.
Hmm.
So we're going to pick one of the horses in this race. Google clearly has more money than God, so they don't need us. We can still partner with OpenAI and be somewhat equal partners. And we're going to adopt AI outside on the broader internet. We can't control what
Hmm.
happens to it, but within our ecosystem, we're going to adopt AI. In that, look, if I think about this as a heavy Disney Plus user, if my kids log in and there's one of their favorite characters who's welcoming them and suggesting shows.
So, okay, your point about Disney characters being customized and giving a welcome experience, right, on whatever, they could have done that anyhow. They could have partnered with OpenAI and said, "Great, we will work with you. We'll invest $1 billion, $10 billion, whatever, right? And
Mhm.
you help us generate these complete personas and Goofy saying hello, so and so kid, and welcoming them to the Disney Plus screen
Yeah.
without giving them a license कि कोई भी कुछ भी generate कर सकता है." And I
They
don't think OpenAI has the power to demand that in return right now.
and they haven't considered that. OpenAI does not have carte blanche on Disney IP.
That's the sense
It's
I
a
got.
very restrictive. No, it's a very restrictive agreement from what I saw.
None of this had to be whatever other than a press release. It's a partnership. We will partner with OpenAI for them to work with us on our
Platform.
platform,
Yeah.
right? Without giving any rights to OpenAI. It's a standard your corporate agreement then, right? Press release फिर भी निकालो, but this seems broader to me than that somehow, and I don't get it.
Hmm. Okay. Let's keep an eye on the story
Hmm.
where it goes or if it goes anywhere.
But that $1 billion was a bit of a joke. Like $1 billion of 15 days of compute.
On the reception on मतलब बाहर 1 रुपया रहता है ना. That's where we are. But
Exactly.
there's no inflation. Huh? There's no inflation.
There's no, not at all.
The Bank of Japan raised interest rates again. They're back above 1995 levels. How is nobody talking about that?
I think people have just given up. क्या like where do we focus? बाल यहाँ से भी चल रहे हैं, यहाँ से भी चल रहे हैं, यहाँ से भी चल रहे हैं, यहाँ.
For audio only listeners, Vinith was firmly confined to his head there.
I think we gave up on the audio only listeners like a long time ago. Like I haven't even posted to Spotify. We got I think 10 months of zero views total,
Hmm.
cumulative zero views. I
Nice.
should sort of change that. So yeah, I need to get back to YouTube. I haven't posted in a while. So yeah, that's homework for the weekend before I head to the hills.
Nice.
So let us end there, and next weekend we shall do. I will be back to AI. That's all I know in life.
Yes. Let's do that. All right. See you
So
next week.
see you, Nitesh.
Bye
See you,
bye.
everyone. Bye bye.